CNN. The White House acknowledged this week that President Donald Trump met Russian President Vladimir Putin during the G20 dinner for an hour, a meeting that went undisclosed for weeks until it came out in press reports. This non-disclosure follows a pattern when it comes to some meetings between Trump associates and Russians. The interactions span back to the in-person meeting at Trump Tower in the summer of 2016 between senior Trump campaign officials and a group of well-connected Russians. The meetings below include formal appointments, casual pull-asides and phone calls. All of them were discovered through leaks and media reports. While there is no legal requirement for people running political campaigns to disclose all their meetings, a handful of the most senior Trump campaign, transition and administration officials insisted for months that there were no contacts with Russians. The interactions came in the midst of Russia's attempts to influence the 2016 election and during the subsequent political fallout. Once some of the aides became White House officials, however, not revealing Russian interactions and meetings is more than an omission to the public. It could be illegal. If any White House and administration officials intentionally omitted meetings with Russian foreign nationals on their security clearance forms, that could be a federal crime. A number of previously undisclosed interactions with Russians have been revealed in the past 6 months since Trump took office, and White House officials and Trump associates have since confirmed the following such interactions with Russians. The meeting wasn't made public until the New York Times reported about it earlier this month. In his first public statements, Trump Jr. shrugged it off as a discussion of Russian adoptions, but as more stories came out, he released an email chain that revealed the promise of dirt on Clinton from the Russian government. The emails were the first public indication that at least some in the campaign were willing to accept Russian help and that the Russian government was seeking to help Trump. Attorney General Jeff Sessions met with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak at a State Department-organized event during the Republican National Convention in Cleveland while Sessions was still a senator and Trump campaign surrogate. The meeting first came to light in March, when it was reported by the Washington Post. Sessions did not disclose this meeting when he applied for his security clearance. He also did not mention it when he was asked about contact with Russians during his Senate confirmation hearings earlier this year. Sessions has argued he was told by the FBI he did not have to disclose such a meeting because it was conducted in his capacity as a U.S. Senator even though it took place at a political convention. The revelation led to calls for Sessions to recuse himself from overseeing the FBI investigation into potential collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Sessions ultimately agreed to step aside. Sessions said he had considered recusal based solely on being connected to the campaign from the day he became Attorney General. Trump campaign national security advisors J.D. Gordon and Carter Page met Kislyak separately during the same event, which USA Today first reported in March. Gordon told CNN he had informal conversations with Kislyak on 2 occasions during the all-day event, which was attended by members of the RNC and other Trump campaign staffers. He said only one of his interactions involved Page. Page told USA Today he had no substantive discussions with Kislyak. Page left the Trump campaign after a few months amid questions about his connections to Russia. Neither man joined the Trump administration and so they were not required to disclose their meetings. The Guccifer 2.0 persona claimed credit for hacking the Democratic National Committee, whose emails were released in July 2016 by WikiLeaks. Guccifer 2.0 leaked other DNC and Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee files on his website. The meeting took place at the height of Russia's campaign to influence the U.S. election. 1 day earlier, WikiLeaks released the first batch of emails stolen from Clinton campaign manager John Podesta. The U.S. intelligence community says Russian hackers got the emails and gave them to WikiLeaks. Kushner updated his security clearance forms, which did not initially disclose the meeting, to include it. Flynn called Kislyak once more, this time to arrange a future call between Trump and Putin, according to Spicer, who disclosed the interaction in a press briefing to reporters on January 13. On the same day as the calls, President Barack Obama announced new sanctions against Russia as punishment for its interference in the 2016 election. After Trump took office, senior administration officials, including Vice President Mike Pence, publicly insisted that Flynn never discussed sanctions with Kislyak. Those denials fell apart when the Washington Post later reported that Flynn did talk sanctions, and Flynn resigned on February 13. The calls caught the attention of the Justice Department and the FBI. Acting Attorney General Sally Yates warned the White House in January that Flynn had misled the White House about discussing sanctions. Trump had an hour-long conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin during a dinner for G20 leaders in Germany. The two spoke with no one else present besides Putin's translator. It came hours after their formal bilateral meeting, which included introductory comments to the press. The White House did not acknowledge that the second conversation took place until July 18. 2 weeks later, a White House statement characterized the meeting as brief and said it took place in full view at a dinner for world leaders and their spouses. Trump was seated near Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Abe's wife, while First Lady Melania Trump was seated next to Putin. The White House said Trump went over to his wife and spoke with Putin near the dinner's end.